Hi, and welcome to our open house. I'm Christina Palmer.
And I'm Celeste Huss, and we're with Parker Real Estate.
Today we are going to talk about what are the closing costs for a buyer and a seller.
Yes, and sometimes people group those into one big thing, like, well, I'll pay for closing costs. Well, what exactly does that mean? Because a seller has different closing costs than a buyer.
Right. So who pays for them? Let's talk about on the buyer side of things then.
On the buyer side of things. So closing costs on a buyer side are typically come from a lender. There are a few that don't, that the title company figures up, like they prorate the property taxes for the time that the sellers own the property for the year, and then the buyer, and there's debits and credits given there. But for the most part, the closing costs are charged by a lender. And they can vary lender to lender. Some lenders actually have pretty high closing costs and others have lower closing costs. So you can always shop around to make sure you're getting the best deal on those closing costs.
That's a great idea. Yeah, shop around on those.
A seller's closing costs are going to be title fees, and they're also going to provide a buyer's policy to the buyer that ensures that the property description that they have that is being conveyed is true and accurate, that mortgages are going to be paid off from the seller's side of things, and that there aren't going to be any problems with that.
There's no liens, there's no issue with the title.
Yeah, everything gets paid off the way that it should be. The other thing also is they're going to prorate taxes. So the seller is going to pay for the taxes on the house for the time that they lived in it for the tax year, and then the buyer pays for their taxes, and the buyer gets the credit from the seller, so that when the buyer's taxes are due, they're all there and payable, ready to be paid.
Nice. So as we talk about closing costs, negotiability, is that something that we can negotiate between the buyers and the sellers? And the answer is yes. Why, yes, we can, which is awesome. This is great news.
Yes.
Especially if you're the buyer and you need to, or you don't want to use all of your money, maybe in your savings, you can go back to the seller and negotiate that. So yes, absolutely. Closing costs can be negotiated, and we see that all the time in transactions.
Yeah. So the closing costs for a buyer that we're talking about are mainly going to be a lot of lender fees. And that's why we would encourage you to shop around, because lenders are going to have different fees. Because lenders actually can make their money on a loan in a lot of different ways, and so and it depends on if you're buying down an interest rate and things like that. So the fees that are charged are quoted by your lender typically, and so you want to get those in writing and make sure that you understand each of those fees, because they could have a processing fee, an underwriting fee. They'll quote you the appraisal fee, even though you'll pay that out of pocket, but they'll quote all of these fees. The lender actually has its own title insurance policy to protect them, the lender. So all of those things are included in those, and to ask for them if you need that help is definitely something we see all the time.
Nice. Well, hopefully you've learned something new about closing costs. Give us a like or subscribe to our channel.
And if you have any questions for us, put them in the comments, and we can see about making future videos to answer those questions too. Thanks.
See you later.